Hello and welcome, everyone. Today, we're unraveling a complex question. Is it better to uncover large frauds and Ponzi schemes or to let them linger? It's a question that's been at the heart of numerous debates, stirring up a storm of economic, social, and ethical considerations. We'll be taking a look at some historical examples, diving into the intricate world of financial deceptions, and exploring the economic impacts that these schemes can have on society. But we won't stop there. We'll also be delving into the ethical aspects, asking ourselves whether it's right to expose these schemes, even if the fallout could lead to economic instability or worse. It's a tangled web, but we're here to untangle it, to shed some light on this shadowy corner of the financial world. So buckle up as we delve deep into this intriguing subject. First off, let's ensure we're on the same page about what financial fraud and Ponzi schemes are. Financial fraud is a broad term that covers various deceptive practices in the finance industry. This includes activities like manipulating financial data, insider trading, and securities fraud. Essentially, financial fraud involves using deceptive methods for personal or corporate gain. On the other hand, a Ponzi scheme is a specific type of financial fraud. It's an investment scam where profits to initial investors are paid using the funds of newer investors, rather than from legitimate business activities. The scheme collapses when there are no more new investors, or when too many investors ask for their money back. Now let's take a brief look at some high-profile cases of financial fraud and Ponzi schemes. The Evergrande real estate crisis is a recent example from China. Evergrande, a massive real estate conglomerate, is in serious debt, and there are allegations of fraudulent practices. This has led to panic in global markets, and it threatens the stability of China's economy. Next, we have the Olympus accounting scandal from Japan. Olympus, a major electronics manufacturer, concealed investment losses through complex financial maneuvers. The scandal had severe repercussions for corporate governance in Japan, and it led to a loss of trust in Japanese businesses. From the cryptocurrency world, we have the collapse of FTX, a cryptocurrency exchange in the USA. FTX misused customer funds, leading to a rapid downfall and a significant impact on investor trust and the overall cryptocurrency market. And finally, we have the Theranos biotech debacle. Theranos, a biotech firm in the USA, made false claims about its health technology. The fallout from the scandal affected investors, the healthcare industry, and regulatory frameworks. Understanding these concepts and examples is key to our discussion. This understanding will help us delve into the deeper implications of uncovering large frauds and Ponzi schemes versus allowing them to continue. Let's continue exploring this fascinating and complex topic. Now, let's dissect some high-profile cases from around the world and their implications. First on our list is Evergrande, a giant real estate company in China that shook the global markets with its debt crisis. Evergrande's debt pile, amounting to over $300 billion, raised alarm bells when it became clear that the company was struggling to meet its obligations. The ripple effects were felt beyond China's borders, with global investors fearing a potential fallout. The company's alleged fraudulent practices, including the use of funds for other purposes and promises of returns they couldn't fulfill, added fuel to the fire. The crisis threatened not just China's economic stability, but also the world's, given China's significant role in the global economy. Next, we turn our attention to the Olympus Corporation in Japan, a leading manufacturer of optics and reprography products. In 2011, the company was embroiled in one of the biggest corporate scandals in Japan's history. Olympus had been concealing investment losses for over a decade, disguising them through complex financial maneuvers. When the cover was blown, it didn't just lead to a massive drop in Olympus's stock, it also shook the corporate governance in Japan to its core. The scandal raised serious questions about the effectiveness of corporate governance and auditing practices in the country. Moving on to the United States, we come across the story of FTX, a cryptocurrency exchange that saw a rapid downfall due to misuse of customer funds. The collapse of FTX was a stark reminder of the risks associated with the largely unregulated world of cryptocurrencies. FTX's misuse of customer funds and the subsequent collapse impacted the cryptocurrency market significantly, leading to a sharp drop in investor trust. The fallout from the FTX debacle has led to calls for more stringent regulation of the cryptocurrency industry. Lastly, we look at the Theranos case, a biotech firm that promised to revolutionize the healthcare industry with its innovative technology. However, those promises turned out to be false. The company's founder, Elizabeth Holmes, was accused of making false claims about the company's health technology, leading to one of the most notorious fraud cases in Silicon Valley. The fallout affected not just the investors who had poured millions into the company, but also the healthcare industry and regulatory frameworks. The Theranos debacle underscored the need for more rigorous checks and balances in the biotech industry. As we can see, the discovery of these frauds had significant implications. Each of these cases serves as a reminder of the potential fallout that can occur when fraudulent activities are exposed. They underline the importance of maintaining financial integrity and the dire consequences that can follow when it's compromised. They also highlight the need for more stringent checks and balances, and for investors to be vigilant and question too good to be true claims. These cases also shed light on the ripple effects of such exposures, both immediate and long-term. The immediate impacts are often seen in the form of stock market drops, job losses, and investor panic. But the long-term consequences can be far-reaching, leading to regulatory changes, loss of public trust, and the push for more stringent corporate transparency. In conclusion, while uncovering frauds and schemes can lead to immediate economic instability and panic, it's necessary to expose these activities to maintain market integrity and protect investors. However, it's equally important to have measures in place to manage the fallout and mitigate the potential harm to the economy and society. The balance between uncovering fraudulent activities and maintaining market stability is a fine one, and these case studies serve as a stark reminder of that fact. The exposure of these frauds creates immediate and long-term consequences. Now, when we say immediate impacts, we're talking about the kind of fallout that's almost instantaneous. The moment a major fraud is exposed, the stock market tends to react swiftly and severely. Share prices plummet, sometimes wiping out billions in market value in a matter of hours. But it's not just investors who feel the pinch. Employees, too, often bear the brunt of these revelations. Job losses are common as companies scramble to cut costs in the face of a scandal. And then there's the investor panic. Confidence takes a hit and people start pulling their money out, not just from the entity at the center of the fraud, but from similar companies too, out of fear that they might be next. But the impacts of exposing fraud don't end there. They ripple outwards, affecting the broader economy and society over the long term. For instance, regulatory changes often follow in the wake of a major fraud. Governments, in an attempt to prevent a recurrence, introduce stricter rules and oversight. These changes, while necessary, can sometimes stifle innovation and growth, at least in the short term. Public trust, once lost, is hard to regain. When people lose faith in the system, it can take years, even decades, to rebuild that trust. And this loss of trust isn't confined to just one country or one industry. In an interconnected world, a major fraud in one part of the globe can shake confidence in markets thousands of miles away. Lastly, there's the push for more stringent corporate transparency. Companies are forced to open up their books, to show that they're on the straight and narrow. This increased scrutiny can lead to a more accountable corporate culture, but it can also put a strain on businesses, particularly smaller ones. So you see, the ripple effects of exposing fraud are wide-ranging and long-lasting. It's a complex issue with no easy answers, but an important one to understand as we navigate the murky waters of financial integrity. Now let's consider the ethical responsibilities and social implications of uncovering fraud. This is where things take a more philosophical turn. When we uncover fraud, we are essentially holding a mirror up to society, reflecting not just the actions of a few deceitful individuals or corporations, but the system that allowed such deceit to take root and flourish. It's important to remember that the decision to expose fraudulent activities isn't just about righting a wrong. It's about demonstrating that justice and fairness are cornerstones of our economic system. It's about showing that the rules of the game apply to everyone, regardless of their wealth or influence. However, the ethical responsibility of uncovering fraud doesn't come without its dilemmas. If exposing a fraud leads to a significant economic downturn, job losses, or damages to innocent third parties, can we truly say that the act was ethically right? This is where ethical considerations collide with practical realities. On the social side of things, trust is a key factor. Our society, and indeed our economy, is built on trust. We trust that the companies we invest in are truthful about their financial health. We trust that the banks we deposit our money in won't suddenly collapse. We trust that the regulatory bodies overseeing these entities are doing their jobs effectively. When a fraud is exposed, it's not just the fraudsters that are put on trial, it's the entire system. It's the auditors who failed to catch the discrepancies, the regulators who missed the warning signs, and sometimes even the investors who turned a blind eye to red flags in pursuit of higher returns. This erosion of trust can have far-reaching implications, leading to a decrease in investment, a slowdown in economic activity, and even social unrest. In conclusion, while the ethical imperative to uncover fraud is clear, it also comes with a heavy burden. It demands a careful balancing act between upholding justice and maintaining economic and social stability. After all, balancing ethical responsibilities and social stability is a complex task. However, there are arguments suggesting that exposing frauds abruptly can lead to economic instability. This contention brings us to an alternative perspective. Could there be a more strategic, controlled approach to unearthing frauds and schemes? Imagine a dam with a small crack. If the crack is not addressed, it will eventually lead to a catastrophic failure. But if the authorities decide to break the dam to prevent a disaster, the resulting flood could also cause immense damage. This metaphor can be applied to the world of financial fraud. Sometimes the abrupt exposure of a fraudulent scheme can create a ripple effect, leading to panic selling in markets, a sudden drop in investor confidence, and a potential economic downturn. Take the case of the Evergrande crisis. The sudden exposure of its debt issues sent shockwaves through global markets, leading to investor panic and economic instability. Would it have been better to manage this exposure more strategically, gradually unveiling the truth to prevent a sudden shock to the system? A counterpoint to this approach argues that slow exposure might lead to prolonged periods of uncertainty, which can also be detrimental to the economy. It's a delicate balancing act, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Some proponents of the counter-argument favor an approach that combines exposure with reforms. Instead of simply unveiling frauds and leaving markets to deal with the aftermath, they suggest that regulatory bodies should be prepared to step in with immediate reforms. This could include stricter oversight, enhanced transparency measures, and stronger penalties for fraudulent activities. They argue that this combined approach could help mitigate the negative impacts of fraud exposure, providing a safety net for the economy while still holding wrongdoers accountable. The goal is to create a more resilient financial system that can weather the storms of fraud exposure without capsizing. In essence, these counter-arguments underscore the complexity of dealing with financial fraud. They challenge us to think beyond the immediate need for truth and accountability, considering the broader economic and social impacts of our actions. These counter-arguments highlight the need for a balanced approach to fraud exposure. In conclusion, the question of whether to expose fraud or let it continue is a multifaceted issue. We've journeyed together through the complex world of financial fraud and Ponzi schemes, dissecting high-profile cases from around the globe. We've seen the immediate and far-reaching impacts of exposing fraud, from plummeting stock markets and lost jobs to the long-term consequences of regulatory changes and loss of public trust. While unveiling fraudulent activities is a moral and ethical responsibility, we must also consider the potential widespread harm that could be inflicted upon our economy and society. Striking a balance is crucial. Leaning too far towards exposure could lead to economic instability and investor panic, yet allowing such activities to continue unchecked could erode the very foundations of our financial systems. Remember, these global cases shape our understanding of the importance of financial integrity. They teach us the necessity of vigilance, transparency, and accountability in our quest for a more equitable economic landscape. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Do you think exposing fraud does more harm than good, or perhaps you see a need for a balance between transparency and stability? Don't hesitate to hit that like button if you found our discussion insightful, and do subscribe for more content like this. Share your thoughts in the comment section as your viewpoints enrich our discourse. Your engagement fuels our content. Thank you for joining us today. Stay tuned for more analysis.